Composition. Something that regular viewers will enjoy without needing to understand it, because it makes things appear pleasing to the eye. Something that artists gush about nearly endlessly when they see a master of it. But what is it? And more importantly, how do we approach studying it and applying it to our own art? Those are just a few of the questions that I aim to expand upon during this video. But until then, you should know who you're taking your advice from. I'm Vopsam. I'm a self-taught artist that's been drawing since the Greater Blight's existence. Here is some of my work. If you want to see more, consider subscribing or following my socials. I post whips, full pieces, and general updates there. I also take commissions, which you can find more information about on my card or on my Ko-Fi. Links in the description. So, getting back to our topic at hand, what is composition? This is the part of the video where I Google information and read it out to you after chewing it up in a digestible fashion. I'm like a mama bird, really. Composition is the arrangement of visual elements in a piece, lines, shapes, colors, and textures. It's the way through which an artist creates a point of interest, balance, cohesion, emotions, and even storytelling. In short, composition creates engagement between the piece and the viewer. Originally, while writing the script, I had planned to cover each one of the rules of composition and all its elements, but I realized that would be disingenuous of me to do. I haven't studied these rules in depth for myself, and I don't understand them well enough to advise you on how to apply them, or even explain them properly. So instead of doing that, I'll just show you what works I study to deepen my understanding of composition, and you can decide what to do with that information in your own art journey. This is artist Anato Finnstark. I found his work by complete accident while on a Discord call with my best friend, and when I saw it, the only questions in my head were, how can I achieve this kind of composition? How do people learn to create pieces that aren't only visually pleasing but also tell a story? And is there a code to crack, or is it all just intuition? I began by dissecting one of Anato's pieces that I found to be the easiest to stomach when it comes to understanding his approach to composition. From my analysis, there's 3 main factors, and a bonus one, that are almost always present in Anato's works. Let's run through them together. Anato Finnstark loves his shapes, but by far the 2 that occur the most are the circle and
triangle. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nice.
And believe it or not, I have a few knowledge tidbits I remember from my brief time in college about shapes and art. Yay! The circle is most often seen placed to frame the head or the focus point of the piece. It's an effective way of drawing the eye immediately to a spot because circles are perfect shapes that demand our attention. Whatever is encapsulated within a circle will always be where the eye goes to first. It's essentially a "look over here" art hack, an exclamation mark for your brain. And because it has so much weight, it often needs to be balanced somehow, either with texture and surrounding shapes like in this piece, or with another, usually smaller circle like in this piece. Triangles are our real star though. They are scattered everywhere in Anato's works, and we can see that very clearly in this piece. The swords, the rays emanating from the circle, her gown, they all form triangles with very strong points. Even her posture forms a triangle within a triangle. So, what's so special about this shape? The triangle is a very fascinating shape, and I think we all should become friends with it. It is incredibly easy to spot, it has a strong point which can either imply openness or restrictiveness in a piece, and it's very powerful because it contains the rule of 3, which is a rule that we encounter in pretty much everything, from games to spiritual rituals and more. The number 3 is ever present in our lives. From what I remember from my college studies, triangles are considered to be a masculine shape, meaning that it contains a lot of power from a storytelling perspective. When the triangle is facing downwards, it is a receptive shape, open and soft, like water. When it is facing outwards, it's considered an ascending shape, representing power and structure. At least, according to my one teacher. But probably its best quality, and our second point regarding Anato's works, is triangles offer us the ability to play with both of those because they form them naturally when placed together. If you have 2 triangles on a canvas and you continue their lines, eventually they will intersect. Even if we don't visually see them intersecting, the brain is still very much aware of this expected point of contact, which makes for a very engaging piece. These are incredibly present in a lot of Anato's works, and he likes to leave them very loud and proud. Just have a look at this one. The lines are clear as day. You can practically feel the confidence Anato has in letting these shapes cut sharply through his piece. And despite these clear-cut lines, the composition remains balanced through smart use of value and contrast, which brings us to our third point. Yes, we can get away from the dreaded value talk, I'm sorry. From what I've observed, in most of Anato's works, the main subject of the piece is almost always darker than the background. This makes for a very interesting contrast that I don't often see many artists using. Usually the opposite is preferred, where the subject is in light while everything else is in shadow. My favorite usage of this is this piece right here. Despite the flower being the brightest item, our attention still goes to the skeleton first because of these strong, pure blacks present on him. Then, if we follow the line of where he is looking, we see the flower, which in turn guides us throughout the piece to the silhouettes in the background. I'll be honest, I haven't made use of this particular rule for my piece, but I will most certainly be exploring it for future pieces, because I'm absolutely enamored with the look of it. Glazing aside, here's our bonus fourth point. The element of storytelling is a lot more personal to the artist, and it's not something with clear rules in place. You need to sit with yourself and try to figure out what you want from your own work. It doesn't need to be profound either, it can be as whimsical as you wish it to be. But this process is, I think, where the difference happens between many artists. Let me preface this by saying, there's nothing wrong with drawing based off of instinct. Sometimes you might find more value in that. Sometimes an idea takes shape as you work, sometimes you just want to draw without thinking about all these rules. You do whatever makes you happy in your journey. But taking a moment to think about what you're putting down, and especially how you're doing it, definitely elevates your work. In this piece, the skeletal harpies wielding swords and the orange wash both work to suggest a battle is happening or has just begun to fizzle out when we happen to peer into this world. With one of the harpies being momentarily distracted by this fragile beauty, stubbornly remaining amidst the terrors of war. It's a contrast between harsh and soft, not only in a texture sense, but in a storytelling sense as well. In this piece, you can see the knight is hunched over his horse. The hill is steep and the shape of the horse itself is lost to the smoke and tatters surrounding him. The sharp swords are jabbed into the knight's back. This whole piece communicates the sentiment of a grueling ambition to keep going, no matter how difficult everything gets, standing stalwart despite the uphill battle. It's suffocating. You can feel the world weighing on our main character, but these bright oranges and all these converging lines also offer us a sense of hope. None of these elements are accidental. This is the beauty and the value of storytelling. This is one of the things I hope to be able to master eventually. The beauty of storytelling is unmatched. I think it adds so much value to something. It's absolutely gorgeous to be able to communicate a feeling or an action or something perfectly through your work. So, now we're more familiar with Anato Finnstark's works, and some of the ways he builds his compositions. Let's apply some of those things to our work and see what we get. Archangel Michael is my final Archangel in my series. It only felt fair to go all out for this particular piece. Off the bat, we are stepping way outside of my comfort zone by going full body. Michael was definitely my most challenging artwork of them all, and there were times where I wanted to give up because it felt like I would never finish it at the level that I wanted to finish it at. It seems like I need to work on my patience and my endurance. As I grow my skill, I'm finding that my pieces are also beginning to take increasingly more time to put out, which is both really exciting and a little frightening for as maintaining a consistent uploading schedule goes. As you can see, this video took a while. From my thumbnails, you can see that I'm already playing with shapes. I had a strong idea of what I wanted, so the first step was putting Michael in a strong triangle right in the middle and going from there. I added a circle to frame his head and a smaller one at the tip of the triangle to balance everything out. Then, for the background, you can see me playing with those converging and intersecting lines as well to add some visual interest to the piece. Going into color, I made use of my knowledge of the cold-warm contrast. Red and blue are present throughout the piece and framed by this godly golden shine, as if Michael's radiance is bleeding through the whole artwork. Another element that I added, granted a lot later, are these hands reaching upwards towards him and sort of grasping at the light. I do feel like I could have done better, but I think I was getting a bit burnt out working on this piece by the time I got there. Please remember to give yourselves breaks. I was being silly and working on multiple projects all at once while making this, and I definitely felt it towards the end. I also played around with textures more and allowed brush strokes to exist imperfectly throughout the piece, the sign of a human's presence. And I can't really remember who said that, maybe you guys can let me know. I also left some of the harsh white light just be, like in Anato's pieces, which made for a very interesting effect that I'll definitely look into using later in other works as well. Just goes to show that using pure white or pure black isn't a rule chiseled in stone, it all comes down to having the knowledge to use them right. On top of everything, I also made use of the absence of detail the further we got from Michael. I especially love the way it came out looking on his legs. I think the effect of that leg being lost to the background came out really well. Despite my exhaustion, I overall loved working on this piece, especially since I got to draw armor and mess around with the reflectivity on it, which is always super fun. But also because it showed me how much I truly learned throughout all of my time spending working on this mini-series of mine. And here it is, the final piece. I do hope you enjoyed this series. If you haven't seen the other videos and are interested in some of the tips I went over in those, I've left links in the description to those, or you can always click the top right of the video for every art-related content I've made on the channel. Also, keep an eye out on my posts. I sometimes ask you guys questions about what you would like to see next, or post announcements about streams. I do hope you join me on our next journey. We've reached 304 subscribers, which I think is just amazing. I honestly never thought I would get here, so thank you all so very much. And in case we don't see each other again, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.